Photographer, journalist, author, and Tibetologist Vijayakranti, through his exhibition, celebrates his association with His Holiness Dalai Lama. Mr. Vijayakranti speaks to Bhavna Malik on his association with Dalai Lama and also on the diverse issues concerning Tibetan refugees, institution of Dalai Lama, and how national spirit of Tibetan community inspire him. Dalai Lama turns 90 today, and you complete 53 years with your association with Dalai Lama. What's your take on this? What do you have to say?
One thing is that this 90 years birthday of Dalai Lama is very special, not only in the history of Tibet and Tibetan people or for Dalai Lama, even for those people who are admirers of Dalai Lama. So, and moreover, Dalai Lama today stands quite apart from the rest of leaders, statesmen, religious figures we know today. He has become a symbol of compassion and peace and fighting very strongly but without violence, without anger, and still achieving a lot even when his enemy, China, is hundreds or thousands or million times stronger than him. So that's very unique about him, that one person is enough to handle such a big assignment.
When did you first meet him?
It was in November 1972. I was a very young journalist, only 2 years into profession. I was a freelancer, and one news magazine, Saptahik Hindustan of Delhi, the editor, he gave me assignment and he gave me a challenge that he will give me cover story if I can bring the interview of Dalai Lama.
Okay.
And the story also included my observation, study, analysis of the Tibetan refugee community, their aspirations, their problems, how they are living, how they are coping with the situation. So I went to Dharamsala.
Okay.
Before that I studied autobiography of Dalai Lama, and so that I could understand the issue, what he is, what he stands for, and I could formulate some questions, sensible questions. So that was the time I met him, and my interview with him in meeting was very, very impressive.
For how long did you stay in Dharamshala?
It was a few days only, because I had done my preparation in advance. In Dharamsala, the first day made me conversant with the society there. So some young Tibetans, they were assigned to take me around to their institutions, the children's school, what they call Tibetan Children's Village, their handicraft center, their medical center, their refugee reception center, their market, the government in exile office in Lord Dharamsala. So I saw those things and I was impressed that such a small community of only 80,000 people, they could within few years, within 13 years, they were able to create such institutions. That was unique, which impressed me. And Dalai Lama himself impressed me a lot, because in my age, at our age, 23, I was also thinking like many other young people that these religious leaders are useless, they are only self-centered, they are greedy for their own position, comfort. So I wanted to see how different is Dalai Lama. But I was very impressed. I found that...
You just now mentioned that I studied the problems of the Tibetans over there. And what major problem you felt that these are the major concerns?
One is that everybody was first generation refugee. They were going through very teething problems. Like then I think almost everybody was living in a house, one room house, hardly 10 by 10. Some houses were 8 by 8, very small, and the family was living there. The puja altar is also there, their beds are also there, children teach or study also there, they're cooking everything, and they were managing in that and finding their way. And their national aspiration of winning back freedom for Tibet was the most dominant. And their community feeling, their dedication towards Dalai Lama was something which was very impressive. Because I also come from a refugee family.
Okay.
My parents came from Pakistan occupied Jammu Kashmir, and my father, grandfather, they became refugees 3 times in their life. So I understood, at least I had a feeling of the pain of being a refugee. So that also connected me with the Tibetan people. And what I found them was that their aspirations were quite strong. They were hopeful about their future, and they were ready to fight for it.
You have written a book also, Soldier of Peace, on the Dalai
Yes,
Lama.
yes.
How did you go about it? What made you write this book?
You know, it's a comic book.
Yes, animation.
Dalai Lama, the Soldier of Peace. And in this comic book, I have actually used the current Dalai Lama's life story to tell the story of Tibet, to tell a very quick introduction to what is Tibet, how it was a free country, how China occupied it, and also this Dalai Lama, because they have the system of reincarnation. One Dalai Lama, when dies, the next is not appointed through election or through nomination, but it is through the previous Dalai Lama will take birth somewhere, and they identify this child from hundreds of other children.
Yeah.
So I have given the story of how this Dalai Lama, as a 4-year-old child, was identified as the real reincarnation of the previous one among hundreds of other children.
Yeah.
That was very exciting story. The second part of the story is that China attacked Tibet, occupied Tibet, and they made all promises which they did not meet. The Tibetan people became unhappy, and finally when Tibetan people in 1951, they rose against China, then China was ruthless, very. And that was the time when Dalai Lama had to run to India for his safety and asylum.
Yeah.
My second part of the book, first is reincarnation, second is the thrilling story of Dalai Lama's escape, which makes it interesting. So why I wrote this book for last about, first 30-40 years, I was always thinking that Tibetans don't have a handout which tells a good story of Tibet in very simple language which anybody.
As a photojournalist, what were the challenges that you faced throughout your career?
I started as a freelance writer, journalist. Initially, I used to write for newspapers. There were some very kind editors who liked my writing style. But every time they would say that if there is a good accompanying picture, they'll be happy to publish. And in those days, unfortunately, I didn't have money to buy my own camera. But I'm very lucky. I have very good friends. So I have had a neighbor, Balbir Sharma, my very close friend. He was always very kind. He would lend his family camera to me. So whenever I was doing a story, I would go borrow his camera, buy a film, work on my story and pick up the right pictures. And I was getting very good coverage in newspapers. So later in 1972, when I got this assignment about Tibet, so at that time I again borrowed a friend's camera, went there, took all pictures, and when I came back and gave it to Saptaik Hindustan, the layout artist, late Tulki ji, he was a great photographer, great artist, and a really great human being. He liked my pictures and he encouraged me to keep on doing photography. So for a few years I went on doing borrowed cameras. Then luckily I had money and I started buying my own cameras. But one very big challenge has been that photography has been a very, very expensive hobby or profession in India. Number one, no Indian company made cameras, no Indian company made films, or there were no good films. There was one Hindu film which was unfortunately not that good. So every time we had to buy foreign made cameras and films. Unfortunately, the government policy was against their import. The import duty used to be plus 300%. So we as Indian photographers, we were buying the most expensive films, most expensive cameras in the world, and then very few which only smuggled things, and the quality was never known. So we had to cope with it. You go and on a distant assignment, do a lot of hard work, come back, and then you discover that the film was exposed in X-ray when it was imported or smuggled, and everything is gone. So that was another problem. And other is that everything was very expensive. Only just to give you an example, I in 1982, I was working with Indian Council of Medical Research as its national PRO. My job was media relations. So I used to calculate my love with photography was that every time I would get new salary from any new organization in a new job, I'll calculate how many film I can buy with it.
Okay.
So in those days, my salary, total salary was hardly in 1 month, if I translate into the cost, was about 10 films.
Okay.
And then travel expense would be additional, in development will cost more, but I'm only telling you. So I suddenly got assignment in German radio. I went to Germany, and my first salary, when I calculated and saw the film prices there, was 1,000 films.
Okay.
So you can imagine that in what conditions Indian photographers have. But I must say, India is one of the most blessed countries for photography. The variety, the quality of frame images is in the world. No country has such a variety. So our photographers are blessed. That's why we have very good photographers despite low quality of equipment and other things. Now luckily things are open. Good photograph cameras are available. Every equipment is available in India, and that's why you see such wonderful work is being done. And now photography is a challenge. Now the challenge is quality. So I have enjoyed it.
In the time of social media influencers, each having phone is a camera for everyone now, do you think photojournalism is a good career option now?
Photojournalism is only one part of photography as a profession. Photojournalism, of course, is very, very competitive, but photography has become very challenging because if you just see our photographers, very good photographers, they were hired by very good newspapers, they were paid very well, and suddenly they discovered that there is no need of photographer. So they will ask the reporter to carry his or her own mobile, up shoot karke, you bring your own picture. So the role of photographer is gone. So many photographers have lost their jobs. And now when people organize their own functions, the family kids themselves can take such good pictures on mobile. So you don't hire a studio photographer. So his job or her job is also gone there. So at the end, you see that even the business people, when they want tabletop for their own products, shoes, bottles, anything, so they discover that they don't need a photographer to hire. Mobile will do it, and editing also. So photography has great possibility in India, even if one is not a full-time photographer. But India can now come up with 1,000 times more good photographers.